What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Dr. B Teaches and the 7th Generation Podcast. I'm Dr. B, and today we're talking about a topic that has been bothering me for a while now. I'm referring to the book Empire of the Summer Moon, written by the author S.C. Gwynne, and now Taylor Sheridan's decision to adapt this settler colonial trash of a book into a film or series. And if you've been following me for any period of time, you know that I cannot stand this book. But we need to go a little deeper and explain why the book is dangerous, why the Comanche Nation is taking a stand against the book Empire of the Summer Moon, and why Taylor Sheridan continues to push these harmful narratives about Native people. So buckle up, because today we're going to break down some of the problems with Empire of the Summer Moon, the larger issue of non-Native people controlling Indigenous stories and narratives, and how Taylor Sheridan has been profiting off of Native pain and suffering while trying to insert himself into Indigenous struggles like the MMIW, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Movement. Let's start with the book itself. It is a fan favorite among many people, including Joe Rogan, who claims that Empire of the Summer Moon is one of his favorite books. He also had S.C. Gwynne on the Joe Rogan show. I did watch the episode. I forced myself to. And there were so many problems with so much of what S.C. Gwynne had to say about Native Americans, not just in the podcast that he did with Joe Rogan, but also in the book Empire of the Summer Moon. Any history buff who loves the myth of the Wild West and people who think that Native history is just another chapter in America's violent rise to power probably is going to love Empire of the Summer Moon. But let's be real, the book is settler colonial propaganda. S.C. Gwynne glorifies figures like the Texas Rangers, men who actively participated in the violent displacement and genocide of Native peoples in the state of Texas. He describes the Comanche in dehumanizing terms, calling them bug-ridden and ugly. And he even claims that Native languages are overly simplistic. That alone tells you this book was written from a deeply racist and Eurocentric perspective. What's even worse is that S.C. Gwynne completely ignores Comanche sources. Now, the book Empire of the Summer Moon is mostly about the Comanche, about Quanah Parker, Cynthia Ann Parker, and the story of how Texas was settled. And I don't know how you can write a book that's mostly about the Comanche and never talk to anybody in the Comanche Nation. The author didn't bother to engage in any Native or Indigenous perspectives at all. This isn't just bad history, it's outright settler colonial revisionism. What's even worse is the book is a national bestseller. It was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, and it's made S.C. Gwynne millions of dollars. And now the Comanche Nation has had enough. They recently passed a resolution denouncing the book and its misrepresentation of their history. The resolution also bans the use of tribal funds to purchase the book unless it's for some type of critique. This is a really powerful move, and it definitely speaks volumes to how damaging Gwynne's writing has been to the way Native history is understood by the broader public. And that's really one of the big problems that I see, especially in academia, is that we really do need Indigenous peoples to be the ones to tell their stories. Indigenous storytellers should be the ones writing these books, telling the story of their communities in a way that represents them, as opposed to people like S.C. Gwynne. people who completely ignore Indigenous perspectives, Indigenous voices. All right, let's talk about Taylor Sheridan. I know a lot of people love his work, everything from Yellowstone to 1883. I get it. He's a master of that gritty Western storytelling that Hollywood has been eating up for the last century. But let's not pretend that he's some champion of Indigenous representation. Sheridan has a long history of pushing settler narratives under the guise of giving Native peoples a voice. He centers white protagonists in almost every story, portraying them as complex and morally conflicted, while Native characters remain side plots. They're either suffering or to be used as tragic symbols. And let's not forget the film Wind River. I know a lot of people liked it. Sheridan marketed the film as a story that brings awareness to the MMIW crisis, but let's be real, he inserted himself into the movement, at least in my opinion, to gain some clout. And he's even tried to take credit for the MMIW's movement's success. I don't think so. Let's talk a little bit more about the film Wind River. I know a lot of people liked it, but it was your typical white savior film. You have a white police officer who is the hero trying to solve the murder of a Native American woman. Again, reinforcing the idea that Native people need some type of white savior to fix and solve our problems. It's the same narrative that you saw in films like Dances with Wolves. And after the film, Sheridan didn't do anything to uplift Indigenous-led MMIW groups. He just used the MMIW tragedy for his own personal storytelling. He collected praise and he moved on. And now here he is again. He just purchased the rights to the book Empire of the Summer Moon to turn it into another big budget project. This is the same old formula. You take a violent, whitewashed version of Native history, you center it around white settlers, glorify their violent struggle, and throw in a few one-dimensional, stereotypical Indigenous characters to make it seem authentic. And this isn't just about a book or a TV show or a movie. It's about who gets to tell Indigenous stories and how those stories shape the public's understanding of Indigenous communities and cultures. The book, Empire of the Summer Moon, is filled with ugly, dangerous, harmful stereotypes about Indigenous peoples. And when these books, like Empire of the Summer Moon, become bestsellers and get adapted into mainstream entertainment, they reinforce these harmful stereotypes. They continue the idea that Native people were just simply obstacles to Western progress, that our histories are just violent footnotes in America's rise to power, and that settlers and people like the Texas Rangers are the real heroes. And it glorifies and teaches us to embrace violence. And I just have a problem with that. And when powerful people in Hollywood like Taylor Sheridan get to control Indigenous stories, they get to decide how we are seen. They pick and choose the parts of Native history that gets highlighted. And more often than not, they continue to push that same old, tired, Indigenous stereotype that we were violent, that our culture was uncivilized, that we were less than, that we were savages. The same tired tropes that have been around since the days of John Wayne. And I get it. There's a lot of Americans out there who love violence. They love the idea that their ancestors came over here and took the land, conquered the land and the people. But here's the truth. We're still here. Indigenous peoples were never erased from Turtle Island. We're still fighting for our lands, for our languages, for our cultures, to protect our sacred places, to tell our own stories. And I love it that the Comanche Nation, through their resolution, is taking a stand. They're saying that Indigenous voices matter. So what can we do? We can start by supporting Indigenous creators, filmmakers, authors, historians who are telling Indigenous stories the right way. We need to challenge these settler colonial books, films, movies, whatever, anything that distorts or erases Indigenous histories. And we need to keep speaking up against these harmful narratives that are pushed in mainstream society and our education system, even onto our children. And I just recently picked up and read this really incredible book, and I want to share it with you because if you want an excellent alternative to S.E. Gwynne's book, I would check out this one right here by Ned Blackhawk, The Rediscovery of America, Native Peoples and the Unmaking of U.S. History. This book is absolutely incredible, and I encourage all of you to read it. At some point in time, and do a full episode on it. All right, that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Dr. B Teaches. As always, I'm really curious. Please comment below. I enjoy reading the comments. If you were raised up on Westerns and you were taught those stereotypical views of Native Americans, please let me know and how your views have changed over time. I hope you all check out that book by Ned Blackhawk. It is outstanding. Also, you can find me on TikTok and on Instagram. My Instagram handle is 7Gen Podcast. On TikTok, it's Merciless Savages. And of course, you can find me on YouTube, Dr. B Teaches. I enjoy doing this content. I enjoy doing this work. And as always, I want you guys to continue to learn, continue to grow, and to continue to challenge these harmful stereotypes and narratives that dehumanize Indigenous peoples. So let's keep calling out these harmful stereotypical narratives and push for real Indigenous representation. I'll see you next time. This is Dr. B. Later.